Alright, welcome guys on this tutorial on how to connect your MySQL with your PHP code. Alright, so first we're gonna create a database. We're gonna call this database demo. Alright, and we're gonna add a table. So just for testing, we're gonna name this table tests. Let's name it users. Alright. Okay, so we add 5 columns. First, we're going to use the user ID, which we're going to make it auto increment. So each time you add a user, then this number automatically goes up by 1. And then we're gonna have the user first name. Let's call it user F name. And we're gonna have the last name. So we add user last name or L name. And then we're gonna need the user email. So let's add that. Let's make this common. So let's add email first. Alright, then we have the user password. Okay, so let's keep that as an integer. Let's make it auto increment and primary. Let's give this varchar, let it be 30. Also give this varchar, make it 30. Same varchar, but we'll increase this and make it 45. And then we'll make this 60. Alright. So the email, we want that to be unique because we don't want multiple persons registering with the same email. Alright, so again, this is just a simple table, just for demonstration purposes. So let's save it, and there we have it. So now what we're gonna do is to head over to Dreamweaver. That's what I'll be using today. You can use this with any text editor, even the Notepad. So if you have Notepad++ or just the Notepad, we can do this. All you need is to ensure that you're running this on a server, right? So right now I'm running it on a XAMPP server. So it's a server on the local computer. So there's also a tutorial on how to set up XAMPP if you don't have it already. Alright, so let's create a new PHP file. This is where we're gonna write our PHP codes so we can input and retrieve data from the MySQL database. Alright, so let's start coding PHP. Alright, so I won't go into details what most of these codes actually do. You would have to do some research on your own, because this tutorial is just showing you how to connect the MySQL database. So we're going to put in a code now to connect the database, and then we're going to test it to see if it actually connected. Alright, so we're going to use variable con, short for connect. Then we're going to use the function now that we use to connect the MySQL database. Alright, so that's MySQLi underscore connect, or underscore, yeah, connect. Okay, open bracket, and then we're gonna type in the host name. So because this is on a local computer, then it will be local host. Alright, this is a string, so we need to put this in quotation. Let's use single quotation. Alright, next we need to put in the username, and I'll be using root. Password, there's no password, so we'll just leave that set of quotes blank, and then you'll put in the name of the database. Alright, so that should connect the database, but let's test it just in case. Alright, first, let us just give this document a title, call it demo, and then save it to your local folder. So what I'm going to do is create a new folder called demo, and I'm going to save that file there. Alright, we can call this index.php. Alright, so let's test it. So you're going to put in the path to the file that's on your local computer. So for me, it'll be localhost/demo/index.php. Alright, so you know that it's successful when you don't see an error. So if it wasn't successful, then you'll see an error telling you that connection could not be established. So we're good. Alright. So what we're gonna do now, to test adding data, first of all, to our database, we're gonna create a form, and we're gonna put in some rows so persons can put in their information, and that information will be saved to the database. Alright, so let's create a form. And remember, there's no security feature with the form, so please don't use exactly what I have here for serious projects. There's a lot to learn about securing your form, ensuring that persons can, well, not can, but it's very difficult for them to hack your database. So this is just for a demonstration. Alright, so let's create a table. We're gonna make it center. Let's close that table tag. Let's create a row. Alright, and now we're gonna create a header. So in the header, we're gonna put the type of information that we're gonna collect from the user. Alright, so let's create a couple of those. So we need around 4 of these. How many do we have? We have 5 right now. Okay, so let's just start. I have 1, 2. Alright, just double checking. Alright, so we need username. Hold on a second. As a matter of fact, guys, it's best if we use a vertical form, so we won't need table headers for this. Alright, so we'll make it so this form comes down instead of across. So all we're gonna do is add the table rows, and then we'll have the label and the box, the input box, right beside it. Alright, so we need first name. Let's copy this. And then now we're gonna use the input tag, and this is how we're gonna put data into the form. So input, the type, which would be text. Let's get that right. So we're gonna use text. For name, we're gonna use user f name. So you wanna, for simplicity, you wanna name the input the same name as your column in MySQL. Therefore, it's easier to remember. Alright, and then the placeholder is just that set of words that will be in the box before the user types. Okay, so let's check. Alright, let's just copy this a couple times. We're gonna need this around 4 times, so let's place it 4 times. Alright. So last name, email address, and then this will be password. Okay, so let's change this to L name and change that to last name, and let's change email to user, that to email, and then change the name to user email. Okay, so we're gonna change this type to password, and change this to user pass, which is the same as in our MySQL, and then change this to enter password. Alright, so let's test that, and there we have our form. Let's just take out these we call it save data. Alright, so that's simple form, no styling whatsoever. We won't be doing any styling in this tutorial, just for the fact that we don't want it to be too long, and we're just showing you how to connect the database. Alright, let's just make this strong so it can be bold. This is probably the only styling that we're gonna do. in this tutorial. Let's just do it for all of these. And then we can also see how it looks in Dreamweaver. But it's best to see how the code looks in the actual browser. Alright, so we have our table, or better yet, we have our form. Now, this is where the magic happens. This is where we start using PHP to send the data to the database. Okay. So the code we use here is if is set. We're gonna check that the button is pressed. So this is the function that we use for that. Alright, so yeah, we're missing something here. So what we need to add is the submit button, because there's no way you can submit data without having that button there. Alright, so this will be input, and the type will be submit. So let's look for submit. Alright, and let's give it a name of submit. And let's put a value of, let's put a value of enter user. And let's check. Ooh. Alright, so we had a PHP code that we didn't complete, so we need to comment that part out. Let's see. Alright, let's comment the code itself. But alright, there's an easier way. Let's use the forward slashes. Alright, that should work. Alright, let's run this again. Okay, the button is all the way on the left. We want the button on the form, so let's check this. I think we're missing something here. Alright, yeah, we need to add the TD tags. So let's add those above and below the input tag. Alright, and let's just indent this. And let's check, and there it is. Alright, you can also make the center by using the cold span tag, or the cold span property, and then changing it to 2. Oh, that did not work. Alright, so let's not waste too much time on this. The form will work anyhow, so let's just move on. Alright. Alright, so let's start back the magic. Okay, so we're gonna check that the button submit is pressed, and that's, you see how we name the input button submit. So we're gonna test that that is set. So what are we saying now is if that button is pressed, then we're gonna do this. Okay. Alright, so what do we want this form to do after the button is pressed? Okay, first we need to save. Alright, well, first we need to save these variables, or save the input into variables, because we're going to use these variables to send those data to the database. Alright, so we just need 4 of them: first name, last name, email, and password. Alright, so once you press the submit button, it's going to save the username as what we have in the user input. So let's put that in here. And let's just copy this down. We can just copy this over. Okay, so what we do next now is that we're gonna create a MySQL query. This would be the code that we'll use to input this data into the database. Alright, so for this you need to know some myQuery commands, but you can just use this here. We'll explain it all in other videos, so we'll link some videos or links to tutorial that shows you how to use MySQL. Alright, so we're gonna tell it that you're gonna put insert data into the table, user first name, last name, email, and password. The reason why we don't have user ID here, because that's auto incremented, so the database would automatically assign a number to that entry. Alright, so we're gonna put in the variables for the corresponding data. And then user pass. Alright, so next we're gonna do a query to run the code above. So we're gonna call it run insert, and the function for this is MySQL query. Pretty simple to remember. And then we're gonna put in the 2 requirements, which is the database link, which we already saved as a variable, and the query that we wrote above. Alright, okay, so now what we're gonna do is to have a alert box pop up if the data was entered successfully. Alright, so we're gonna do a bit of JavaScript here. It's simple JavaScript, nothing too technical. It's just gonna let a box pop up to say user entered successfully. Alright, so to write this, you just simply put alert, and then in single quotation we put what we want, and we're gonna put user entered successfully. Okay, just add a bracket and let's close that tag. Alright, so this looks good enough. Let's go test it and see if it actually works. Okay, so let's take this out. Okay, so first name, let's use John Brown, and let's use John.Brown at test.com. Alright, let's give it a random password and let's enter, and nothing happened. Okay, so let's go back and check our database, and yep, nothing went in. So alright, we need to go check our code, so let's check what happened. So alright, so insert into demo, user first name, last name, email, password, have that right. All of those variables are correct. Okay, we're leaving out a bracket here. Okay, let's try again. So same data, let's refresh, take that out. So John Brown is John, same email, and just give it a random password. Alright, so enter, and still nothing happened. Okay, so there must be some bug in the code. We're not getting a PHP error, so this has something to do with the transfer to the database, because we're not getting any syntax error. We're not getting it on Dreamweaver, and we're not getting it on the browser. So let's just check to see where we went wrong. All of this seems fine. Okay. All of that seems fine. Okay, so I did some troubleshooting in the background, and we found that we had the table wrong. We had the database name instead of the table name. So we're right. It was not a PHP error, but it was actually the query error. Alright, so let's get rid of these. Let's try it again, and this time it should work 100%. Okay, so let's do this again. That's John Brown, John.Brown, and random password, and bam, there it is. So from that we know that it went in successfully. There we are, and that's our first data in our database. Alright, so we can do it again just to see that it continues to work. So this time let's use Christine and Morgan. Let's call her Chrissy. And then a random password. Alright, and that shows that it was successful. Okay. Alright, so we just learned how to put data in the database. Now what we're gonna do is to retrieve this data from the database, right? And we're gonna create another table, and this time this table is gonna display all the records in the database. Alright, so let's just add some break tags. We're gonna add the table tag. We're gonna also let this be aligned to the center, so just add align center. Alright, okay, so let's add some table rows. This first one here is for the header, and between the table row tags we're gonna add the table header tags. Just copy that, need it around 4 times. Okay, so in the first one we're gonna add the user ID. Then the first name, last name, and email. Okay, so we're gonna add another row, and then we're gonna make this table dynamic. So we're gonna do more magic here using PHP. So what we're gonna do basically is that for each row we're gonna create for each row in the database table, we're gonna automatically create a new row on the website automatically. Alright, so if there's 4 rows, then we're gonna have 4 rows on the website. So to do that we have to use some PHP. So let's get started with this part. Alright, so what we're going to start off with is the query. So we're going to name our variable select, and then we're going to type in a select query. Alright, so this will be select and then we're going to select all from the user table. Then again we're going to use the MySQL query function to actually run the query above. Alright, so let's name it run. So it's MySQL underscore query. We're going to link it, so we're going to use the con variable, and then we're going to use the select variable. Alright, so this while function, it's basically say while whatever is in the bracket is true, we're gonna do the function which follows afterward. So we're gonna say while there are rows in the MySQL database, we're gonna output the table rows on the website. Alright. Okay, so open bracket. Okay, so let's close the PHP tag for the while loop below the actual table rows. There are other ways to do this, but again, it's all about preference. All right, so let's just close that there, and within the table row, we're gonna put all the table data. So we're gonna have one for user ID, one for first name, one for last name, and one for email. Alright, so we're gonna use some PHP between these data tags. Okay, so what we're gonna do is echo the variable that is attached to the user ID. Alright, let's just copy this down. And then let's echo the user ID. Oh, okay, so we're missing one part. We actually need to take those data and assign it to a variable so we can use it in the table rows below. Alright, so the first one is going to be the user ID. Alright, so we're gonna need a user first name. Let's copy that down. For last name, email, let's add one for the user ID. Okay, copy across. Alright, so now we add the data. Alright, so we're going to start off with the user ID. So we're saying echo whatever is in the user ID variable above. Then we're going to echo the first name. Then after that, we'll echo the user last name. And then we'll echo the user email address. So last name and then email address. Right, so let's, oh, what happened? Okay, so fatal error, seems bad. Alright, let's go back to Dreamweaver and let's see what's on line 101. Okay, here's 101. Oh, we use a period instead of a comma, typo. Alright, so it should work now. And there we are. 2 data that are in the database. So no matter how many rows you have, you'll see all of them pop up on the website here. So let's add one more and you'll see how dynamic our database is already. Alright. Okay, random password and let's enter. Successful and bam, there you go. So we have our 3 data in our database. And it will pop up here also. Great, and thanks for watching, guys.